Oh, and welcome back to Spiritually Naked with Soul. I was just having this conversation with another friend too, but that was the beauty, right? We are redefining what it means to be of value and worth. When we come into our High Priestess energy, when we're moving through this like perimenopausal, menopausal ages, this crone energy. And we get to redefine this because it's always been devalued after these non-childbearing years. And it is taking this creative sexual life force energy and channeling it into something else, channeling it into these creative experiences and ideas and birthing something new into it. And it just becomes working with it in a different cycle, in a different way. And there are so many different cultures that have practiced this for thousands of years. And this is where this, beautiful wisdom comes from. This is nothing new. Like, this is such ancient, beautiful wisdom and knowledge that has just been kept hidden, especially from the Western culture for so long, that we have been separated and divided from for so long. I am Molly, and I am back with my beloved Arla Markel friend, and we are here sharing again with all things spiritually naked. Thank you, Arla, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for letting me co-host with you today. It's a joy.
Absolutely. So today we are diving into seeing things through a different lens.
Yeah,
And yeah, last time we got deep.
you did.
I think maybe we need to kind of go back a little bit. There's been some questions a little bit about the Kundalini experience that we talked about. So if you haven't listened to the third podcast or the second, you may want to listen to those about what came up. But maybe we talk a little bit about what exactly is the Kundalini experience or the Kundalini
Activation.
process that
Yeah.
happens. Yeah. So the Kundalini is this life force energy. It's energetic. It sits at the base of the spine like a coiled snake. It's represented like a coiled snake energy frequency that sits at the base of the spine, and it moves up the spine. And as it's activated, it it creates a heightened vibrational frequency, and it spirals up all the way through the chakras, which are these these like heightened life source points in the body that are connected to energy centers. And as those are kind of awakened in the body, it just creates this lightened experience in the body, like the light body awakening. And it's an activation.
Mm-hmm.
It comes up from the roots, from the earth source, all the way up to the top of the crown. And it can continue to kind of create energy pulses. It can just continue to activate on an energetic or frequency level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my understanding too is there's been some more recent scientific research about it, and there actually even is a fluid that can come up the spine. And a lot of times in history, it was almost the way that the things came together. It was very symbolic in a lot of ways of our gene structure, our DNA double helix. It's fascinating to me how there's even classes you can take now, and not all of them I think are as effective, but to help you begin to activate that energy. And one of the ones that I took actually talked about that there is a fluid, and that it can actually change some of your physical structure. A lot of people, after they experience it, look a lot younger. It, for a lot of women who it tends to get more activated a lot of times a little bit later in life. And for a lot of women, when it wants to be activated, there can even be some low back issues going on because it's a lot of pressure. That energy is pretty intense down there, and so it wants to move. And so because we have a culture that's really ignored that, I think that could be part of the reason why there's a lot of things that women go through at a certain age that are actually probably related to the fact that wants to. Because when we're moving into, like, I'm about to turn 56. When we're in this kind of age, we're moving out of just like the physical creation of having children and into like more of spiritual and energetic creations that we can put out there. And I think that energy wants to be a part of that, and it wants to be activated to be a part. It's because it's crucial, I think, for that. So I don't know, you had a pretty powerful experience, and I know we shared about a little bit in the podcast, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the mana, I think is what it is. It can be called or referred to, right? The mana that comes, does it come down or come up? But it comes through, right? That mixes with the spinal fluid,
Yeah.
right? And the prana, right? The prana is that life force energy too. But no, I was just having this conversation with another friend too. But that was the beauty, right? We are redefining what it means to be of value and worth. When we come into our high priestess energy, when we're moving through this like perimenopausal, menopausal ages, this crone energy, and we get to redefine this because it's always been devalued after these non-childbearing years. And it is taking this creative sexual life force energy and channeling it into something else, channeling it into these creative experiences and ideas and birthing something new into it. And it just becomes working with it in a different cycle, in a different way. And there are so many different cultures that have practiced this for thousands of years. And this is where this, beautiful wisdom comes from. This is nothing new. Like, this is such ancient, beautiful wisdom and knowledge that has just been kept hidden, especially from the Western culture for so long, that we have been separated and divided from for so long. But this is just here for us to honor again and get to know again. And yeah, beautiful practices from the Taoist teaching and Tantra, and really beautiful wisdom out there to rediscover and learn this beautiful magic and knowledge about
Yeah.
ourself and our bodies and the wisdom it holds, just because it's not happening in a physical form or is not working in that way any longer or moving out of that type of cycle does not mean that it's not still in that
Mm-hmm.
form,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not still working in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still really powerful energy. And I know we were going to talk about this a little bit later, but before we got on, we were talking a little bit about even the womb space and how being in Egypt, it felt like in being where we were, we received a lot into our bodies, into our eye gates, into our hands, like all of that. So we received lots of codes and geometries. And I feel like we kind of carried that back here to be able to share that creativity. And I find it so fascinating that a lot of like even ancient Native American cultures, they really saw how a woman at this age, her duty no longer is to like the perpetuation of children and all that stuff, but they really honored this next creative kind of phase of the woman. And I feel like for us, there was a certain amount of activation or maybe more intensification of that going on. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, we tend to want to see ourselves in like this eternal spring or eternal summer all the time, but there's this really beautiful energy of the creatrix, right? That gets kind of passed over, or even winter, that we want to avoid of the wisdom of that high priestess energy. But we did bring that back from Egypt. We did bring back that wisdom and that knowledge of that wild feminine of wanting to create with those codes, of wanting to bring back that activation energies from
Mm-hmm.
that, from those temples.
Yeah. And now it's just so important. We were talking about how there's a lot of fear out there right now because there are so many old structures that we're so familiar with that are crumbling. And every speaker that I've listened to who is into spirituality right now is talking about this, how right now a lot of things are falling apart, but they have to fall apart in order to bring in the new energies and to bring in more balance, balance between the masculine and feminine, because we've had a lot of patriarchal push the last thousands of years, and the earth herself wants that balance. I think people are recognizing they want to balance financially, they want to balance physically. People are awakening to the extremes and the programming. And so it's just such a beautiful thing to feel like coming back and being able to share what we've been able to share can activate other people so that we can all begin, because we all have a part to play in bringing in that new earth, bringing in new energies that are creative and caring and loving and about community. And I feel like this is just so important to realize that this is a transitionary time. It probably will last a few years, and it might feel big a lot of the time, and that's okay. Being able to hold ourselves in that space of like, it's okay, and we have to go through this because there's something so much better on the horizon. And I feel like being able to birth that in our wombs, that's part of like that new earth energy, and what a joy to be able to hold that space and that creativity.
Yeah, there's so many light workers and healers right now on the planet awakening to this and holding space for this. And, just from clients and friends and people I'm talking to, there's a lot of feeling of isolation. And we are all connected. We are connected and we are all activated. And even if you're not going to these places, like even just listening to these podcasts and, connecting into the meditations and the people you are connected into, you are receiving. You are receiving from this, and you are connecting into the codes and the frequencies and the vibrations, even the words that are channeling through, and the tones and the sounds through the voices, right? There's something you're getting through that and from that. Yeah, right. That's coming through. That's why these activations call these places called to certain people, and that we're creating the ripple, that something gets created from that, and that these communities get called to, and that these soul families get connected to, right? That there was a contract before reincarnation, an agreement.
I love what you just said too about the ripple effect, because we don't know exactly what's happening in the heart and the minds of someone that's listening to these. They may have a remembrance, and then they trigger another remembrance in someone else, and it all does work together in just such a beautiful way. And I do see the sacred architecture with Source allowing and designing it in a way that we can awaken it and ripple effect on other people. Like, I love that you shared that.
And you were sharing something with me earlier. And actually, I think I was on the podcast that didn't make it out because the last time we tried to record, you got sick. There's a lot of heavy, dense energy going on right now. So we had to re-record, but you were talking about Hathor in the temple.
Yeah.
And did you want to share about that
I
again?
would love to. I would love to. So, you guys, after I got done editing our podcast, I think it was podcast number 2, where we talked about Hathor, and Molly had shared on the podcast how when she was in Hathor's temple, she felt like all this golden light energy, like the whole thing was bathed in golden light energy. And then she shared about how she remembered scrying and in water there at the temple. And it's so funny because there's no water anywhere around there. It's all like dry. It's desert. And so it was funny that she was remembering, not funny, but like really cool that she was actively remembering all these things. And so I got done with the podcast and I jumped on YouTube while I was exercising, and there's this video that came up that was all about Hathor and all about her temple, and it talked a lot about, it was, the title was something about how she was really a teacher and expresser of joy, that her temples were not quiet. They were expressing joy and expressing and experiencing pleasure and joy and fun and all this stuff. But at the beginning of the video, it said that one of her titles was the golden one, which was really, really cool, because I was like, oh, Molly, of course she was remembering these really powerful things. And then it talked a bit about the scrying that happened in the pools. I was just like, yep, there's that, activation of those memories that you were experiencing. And it was just so fun then to go on and watch another video where people who were experts in, Egyptian lore, and they're sharing all these things. And I'm like, yep, Molly already remembered. That already happened. So yeah, that was really fun.
I tried to get pictures of it too, and it turned out black. There were 2 places I tried to get pictures of like memories, and they wouldn't turn out. It was so wild. So there were a lot of really wild things that happened there. But yeah, that was so neat to hear that. So thank you for sharing that, Arla. It just confirms, right? It confirms the feelings and the visions and the knowings. It's the knowings, trusting the knowings. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the way everything is right now. Things just kind of feel a little in a void. And we have to trust the knowings, which is really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard for a lot of people. And I've been hearing on a lot of podcasts and just through friends, there's just a heavy and a denseness, and a lot of light workers and healers are just very sensitive. And so there's a very strong collective picking up on this heavy, dense energies, and just need to have extra protection, right? Extra support and on this soul led life, right? Whether you are putting yourself out there more, or speaking your truth, or being a healer for others, or being the torchbearer, where you're just needing to feel that extra protection, extra support, safe, supported, held. Being embodied is so important, not leaving yourself as an open vessel, filling yourself, grounding yourself.
And I
What
think
kind of
recognizing your authority in that too, that you had the authority to do that. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday by Bruce Lipton, and he was talking about how each one of our cells, and this is why I was talking about holy architecture earlier, each one of our cells has these, they're called receptor proteins. They're like receptors on the cells, except for our blood cells. And this is why these particular receptors on the outside of the cells actually transmit a frequency. It is our own unique frequency, and we are definitely connected into source in a way that we've never understood, at least not in the last couple thousand years. And so we do have that authority to make that golden, beautiful connection, realize our frequency is direct from source and to source. And it was so fascinating because he was talking about how this is why you can't just take a kidney from one person and put it into another person, because the immune system recognizes each person's individual unique frequency, recognizes its own, that it's not the same, because each person has their own. And it's so powerful when you realize that, because I think for so long, it's like logically we would think, oh, a kidney should be able to go into another person's body. It should be no problem because it's the same structure, right? Except it's not. We all are very unique in our own frequency and our own connection. And that connection sends direct messages back and forth from source to us and us to source. And so I do find that so encouraging when I'm feeling all those heavy things. And I know that you have some beautiful things to share too about that energy hygiene, but that is something that as I was thinking about that, I was like, that is such a powerful thing to realize, that it's a direct connection. We used to think it was only just our soul that was connected, but it is literally the cells in our body are connected in a powerful way. Anyway, I said to share that because I love it.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So would you call that like the Mahatma energy?
as much about the Indian traditions and stuff as you
Yeah.
do, so I think so.
Yeah. Like calling down that that
Mm,
golden light through the whole system, right? The energy frequency.
yeah.
Mm.
What are other
Getting out
things?
of the head.
Yeah, exactly, and back into the heart. What are
Yeah.
other things that you encourage when it comes to like that energetic hygiene?
I think just really recognize like the light body, which
Mm-hmm.
is exactly what you're talking about. Recognizing we are more than, we are the cells in our body connected to that light energy, that light source energy, that diamond light body, that rainbow body, that cosmic light body, that Mahatma energy. And one that, you're not alone. Check in with your people. You're not going through this alone, especially if you're picking up on the collective energy. So are others, right? I think it's so easy to feel isolated right now that, you're not the only one going through this. You're not the only one feeling this. I think the heavy, dense isolation energy, it can be really easy to feel separated and divided. And yeah, that can be the hardest part. So just
Mm-hmm.
know that you're not. And yeah, check in with your people.
That's definite comfort in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hearing below the noise, right? The noise of the head down to the heart space. So the lower we get, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lower and inward,
Yep.
down. And then there's that space right below the rib cage. Even just pressing in on that space right underneath the rib cage, like where they come together at that solar plexus, like
Mm-hmm.
just brings you right back into your body.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's like you're floating outside of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and it can't be an empty vessel. An empty vessel is a vulnerable vessel. Like when you press in on that space under your rib cage, it brings you right back into your body. And you can
Mm-hmm.
feel yourself when you're starting to like float outside yourself. Sometimes you even feel like nauseous, especially with like trauma. If you feel yourself kind of like nauseous or dissociating and feel yourself kind of floating out, you can push in on that spot. It'll bring yourself into your body. But yeah, any kind of like pleasure. Pleasure eradicates fear. I always go back to pleasure. It is the best source, and we have been kept so separate from it.
Mm-hmm.
Heart massages, like it is our quickest, closest way back to like love and away from fear,
Mm-hmm.
just coming back to pleasure.
Well, just now made this. I mean, I've made this connection before, but as you're sharing, the power of it hit me in a more enhanced way. But when we're in pleasure and we're in joy and we're in enjoyment, we're not in fear. And any time that we're in fear, our immune system is shut down, and it leaves us vulnerable to, as above, so below, as in, so without. When we're living in that fear or we're out of our bodies, then we're not experiencing that pleasure, and we're also not activating our immune system. And so we're more vulnerable in other ways as well, which is why I think what you teach is just so powerful and so beneficial, because we don't realize it, but our immune system is shut down a lot of the time, because a lot of the time we're in fight or flight or freeze. And when we're in that space, or we're in shame, and usually when we're in shame, we're afraid, and so we
Yes.
don't realize how much that is shut down. And our immune system affects everything. It's not just about cleansing of viruses and bacteria and all that, but I mean, it's the repair for the body. So when you can live in that pleasure and you're not in fear, your body is also replenishing itself and making yourself anew. So I love that you shared that, because it made that connection just so much more dynamic for me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing how we can come back to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
through pleasure and being the opposite of that, right? Because we want to curl in, we want to shut down, we want, fear worry, anxiety, like all of that takes us away from our pleasure. It takes us away from our creativity. It takes us away from the connection of our love, our self love.
Mhm.
It's the exact opposite. So, yeah,
Mhm.
it connects us right back to ourselves.
Yeah. So good. So good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. And it was really funny, back to the Hathor thing, because I really thought, I wonder if Molly's like a reincarnation of Hathor, because that was a big part of her temple, was really enjoying joy and pleasure and
Pleasure,
yeah. So I think
pleasure, play,
it was,
sensuality, sexuality. Yeah, she had it down. She knew what to do. She
yep,
knew how to keep people out of their fear states.
yep,
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Dance, creativity.
Even
Yeah.
this was not sister and sis,
Singing.
whatever you call that, the shaky. So when we were in Egypt, we learned that
Oh,
they had this, it's like an instrument, and they would shake it and it would make a lot of noise. And so her temple was known for like dance and shaking of this not cistern,
Strum.
sistrum,
Sistrum.
and yes,
Yeah.
and just joy. It was amazing.
Yeah. And the seven sisters, seven Hathors, right? Like the Pleiades energies, like the star sisters. Like there's so much connection there to unconditional love and pleasure and play and joy. And, bringing that back during these darker times, darker months, darker energies, just doing the things, right? Reminding ourselves, back to whatever brings you laughter, whatever brings you joy, movement, dance, toning, like those things are
Um,
so important.
yeah, I've been listening to like Native American drum beats, and then just dancing however my body feels like moving. And
Yes.
because I tend to be a lot in my upper chakras too. Like my crown chakra is pretty open, and I feel like a lot of times that my heart chakra, throat is becoming more, third eye definitely, but I feel like a lot of my lower chakras, because I spent so much time in spirituality, that they kind of got ignored. And that's really what anchors our whole, the light and our oversoul, even down into the very depths of our being. And without that enjoyment and moving into that pleasure and moving into those lower chakras, it can feel really disembodied. And so I find that your whole, lit from within, it's embodied in the lowest chakras in a powerful way, and then coming back up. If you guys haven't checked out her website, you really need to. She's got a lot of beautiful classes that really bring you back into that sense of joy and pleasure and enjoyment.
Thank you, Arla. Yes, yes. And yes, Arla is a wonderful grief and embodiment coach. So if you haven't checked out her website as well, you will find this description below underneath the podcast. So please check that out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else before we come to a close?
Yes, we need to talk a little bit if we have time. I don't know if you have time, but we wanted to talk about the twin flame journey, because you had such a powerful one, and I have one that I'm 99.999% sure has been quite the journey for me. Do we have time to go into that a little bit, because I know we've referenced it and it might be confusing for some people. Some people might be on that journey and not even realizing it. So do you want to go into that, or do you have time?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can go in.
Okay, awesome. So do you want to, I know you shared about your twin flame journey in one of the other podcasts that we had,
Uh-huh.
and you were sharing about how there's a lot of kind of misconceptions, and there were some really beautiful things that you learned about yourself through that journey, and what was most important. So what was most important? Because yours was fairly brief. Not that it's not, you're not aware of your twin, but there's, just kind of share a little bit about whatever you want to share. Or if you want me to ask, because you shared already, if you want me to, however you want to do it.
Yeah. So I think the best way to sum it up is, twin flame is kind of one of those words that has a lot of energy to it right now and has a lot of misconception to it. It's a really messy journey, to be honest, and it's not an easy one. And I don't believe everybody's on it. I believe everybody has one. Not everybody's is activated. Probably not everybody's is going to be activated in this lifetime. It may not be part of the soul purpose in this lifetime. It is an activation. It may not necessarily be the outcome. It's part of what I believe is releasing beliefs and limitations around conditions around love and coming back to unconditional love. It could be about love beyond gender. It could be about breaking twin flame stereotypes. A lot of twin flames are different cultures, different races, different backgrounds, different ages. It's made to release ancestral wounds to come to the surface. It will dig into the deepest, darkest wounds you have in your belief systems. And it's meant to. It's meant to release those. It's a lonely journey. It really is. I've had so many people come reach out to me wanting support because it's hard. It's really hard. And there's a lot of confusion about it. And if you think it's a fairy tale, then you're not on that journey. It's a lot of separation and division, and people like Dolores Cannon have researched it and have a lot of really good information about it. Carl Jung coined the term animus and anima. It's a yin yang, it's an energy, and masculine and feminine are within us all. And it's about finding the balance within us, right? It's an inner journey first. And it has to be an inner journey first. And the feminine within us, the feminine within you is activated first. And it's meant to be that way because the feminine, the nurturing, the compassionate, the forgiving, the loving part of you is meant to hold that purge, right? To heal the feminine wounds first, the mother wounds, the sister wounds, the witch wounds, right? To heal those wounds first before it can heal the masculine wounds, which is like the abandonment, the rejection, the judgment, the worthiness, the lovableness, like all those deep, deep, painful places. Yeah, that you go to on this journey. And then and only then there may or may not be that union and the physical. But there's also a whole, there's more than that. Like there's higher level soulmates, there's kingdom spouses, that is not the only option. So do not fret. Do not get worried if you feel like you have been on this path for so long. I've met people that have been on this journey for years. This is not the only option. It can get so weary, and don't wait. So I guess you asked me what my advice is. Don't wait. This is one, an inner journey. Two, trust yourself. You will feel gaslit. You will feel there's a lot of avoiding and ghosting because this is almost always going to be opposite of the other person at the timing that they may or may not be doing their work. So you're going to feel, like I said, very isolated on this journey a lot of the time. And it may never match up at the same time. So trust yourself and your knowing. Yeah, this is your own inner journey first. And this is a sacred journey. Don't wait. Don't wait. That is key. So this is your journey.
Interesting, because I think a lot of times when I read about done, because I started to experience things, and
yours was like in high school, did you say, Arla?
Oh no, I'm gonna follow this thread really quick. The things I've read about twin flames just talking about, there's a purpose and something that you're supposed to impact the world with together. But I think what I'm hearing you say and what I feel like has been part of my process has been the inner journey, the inner work, because in many ways, as you're doing that, you're also healing things in the collective. And so in a way, it's still affecting the whole, even if you're not together. if that makes sense, is what I'm.
Yeah, you're doing things energetically, you're doing things like you could absolutely, like you're already doing whatever you need to do, maybe on an energetic level. And if there is a physical union that does come together, there could be some sort of soul creation, there could be some sort of physical creation, there could be something that you birth into this world that, will help humanity evolve. But who knows how many years down the road that will be. Take that pressure off yourself.
Yeah. Mine happened after I went through my divorce. I was really going through life coaching and some counseling at the time. And I met him on accident, and I thought he was single. And it was like every cell I felt like in my body, not just sexually, but every cell came alive. And every time I was around him, I felt that like every cell was alive in a way that I had never experienced with anybody else. And there was like this like kind of psychic connection. Like sometimes when we were around each other, I would start to say something emotional and then he would finish the sentence, or I would have dreams. And then after a number of months, I found out, because he was in an occupation where he couldn't wear his wedding ring. And so later I found out he was married. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to completely like, back off from flirting. And it was hard because there were times when I was still flirting and I'm like, I just blew it. And I would read so many synchronicities. I would dream, like I had this dream that this really bad thing was happening. And then I got a phone call at 5:30 in the morning that the thing that I was dreaming about was happening. And I knew that he was involved because of his job. Or I would be thinking about him, and then the next thing I know, he's biking past me. Or everybody, like I have 20 plus family members here in town. I never run into them. I'll run into him 3 times a year. It's just the most. And sometimes I'll have dreams about, I've never dreamed about a man the way that I do with him. And they're almost never sexual. They're almost always just like life stuff. And it's almost like the psychic connection. Sometimes I'll feel like I hear him talking, his soul talking to mine. And at one point about a year ago, because we had an opportunity to bring that into form. Like I was out and about one time with my sisters, and he was out on the town that particular day. And we ran into each other and started talking, and we could have made something happen. And I ducked out because I knew all I could see was his family and how that would affect them. And I couldn't do that. I just felt like maybe in this lifetime, my lesson was to learn to be without him, and that it was about unconditional love for him and blessing his current relationship. And so it took me a long time to get there emotionally. And even then I'd feel like I had it down, and then I'd have another dream. And so about a year ago, I had this situation where I felt like he was saying to me psychically, I'm in a new chapter with her and things are going really well, and I'm closing this door. And I was totally at peace with that. Like I was totally fine with it. And then I don't know, about 2 weeks ago, I had another dream, and I felt like he was nudging me. And I'm just like, you're supposed to be, like I shut that door. And so I found myself kind of not annoyed, but just what is going on? Why? But it definitely has caused a lot of growth in my life too, being able to not perseverate on that, but to just focus on my own growth and my own journey. And so I guess I felt like if I have a twin flame, it's him. But that was my lesson, I feel like, is learning to bless his current relationship and send love there, and not have to make it collapse into form to be whole myself. I'm whole in this lifetime. I'm connected to source. I don't need someone else to, but it sure is amazing when he's around. So anyway, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Be able to have that experience and to be able to feel that wholeness within yourself and to be able to feel that connection to source. And I love how you were able to send that blessing, send that blessing, and to say, basically, that's it. I send that to that relationship and wish it well.
I think I guess if there's a question, I was in another relationship during this time. It was a 6-year relationship with someone else. And there was a lot of I knew karmically that was a relationship that was probably had happened in a previous lifetime, because there was just a connection. Like, I met that person 10 years before, and I just knew we were going to have a relationship at some point. We were both married to different people, but I just had this sense like there was some kind of karmic connection. And so I was in this relationship for 6 years, and I really loved this person. And it wasn't my twin, but I would feel so guilty and bad when I would have dreams about my twin, that it made me not want to ever. I felt like it was disloyal on some, and so I struggled, because it's like, I don't. When I broke up with that person that I'd been together with for 6 years, I felt like I didn't want to get into any other relationship, because I was just scared that I would always be dreaming about my twin. And it made me, I felt really disloyal. And so that was really difficult. I'm curious on your thoughts on that.
Man, I started feeling that way into my marriage, like towards the end of my marriage, when I started having these memories, like flashbacks of this other these other lifetimes or this other person. I started having these memories, and it felt like I was cheating on my husband, and I could not explain it. I felt so disloyal, and I just I felt so bad. And I think I even tried to explain it to him. Like, I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know why it was happening. I think I even tried to explain the sexual rights experiences that I was remembering, and even just, trying to bring spirituality and sexuality together into the relationship. And even at that time, it just was not, there was kind of a shutdown, and there was a lot of guilt. I had a lot of guilt in the relationship at that time with what was coming up. But again, there was kind of that knowing and trust, whereas like I just felt like something else was coming, and I couldn't explain it. But looking at the bigger picture, I can see now that there was just a parallel, maybe energy or overlapping that was in my energy field. Remembrance that there really wasn't guilt. It was just something that was there to help me remember a higher level love or an unconditional love that was meant to help an ascension or help an awakening, that was to bring more wholeness into my world, a healing.
Really, yeah. Yeah, and I do think it definitely, for my journey, it definitely has brought more wholeness, because it's awakened me to so many other things. I think even just understanding things more psychically, that was huge for me. And then having things confirmed, and just, it's definitely been a big part of my spiritual growth over the years. And then also, like I said, learning to love unconditionally without possessing, without needing to possess that other person. Because in my case, if I'm going to do what I feel is best for my soul and his soul, it's separation. It's not being together. And so there is that learning to love unconditionally without possessing. And yeah, there's definitely been beautiful growth that happened. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad I wasn't the only one that felt that. I was just like, I'm a jerk. Like, how can I dream about someone else when I'm with this person? And it just
Oh my gosh. Do you know how many people do that? I think that happens a lot. I know it does. I'm a therapist. I hear those things all the time.
Uh-huh.
But
That's a relief.
yeah, no, that's pretty common. But yeah, no, thank you for sharing that too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Are there other
And
themes that
there's
you see that
what's
run
that?
through? Are there other themes that you see that kind of run through the twin flame journey? Other consistent themes that you see your
Mm,
clients go through that might be helpful?
consistent themes. Let's see. I may have to think about that. Maybe we can pull that for next time. But I love the discernment. I loved the discernment that you shared, using your own discernment, but definitely the telepathy. I think the telepathy is huge, the music, the communication through music. And I think there's a big reason for that. These higher level ways of communication. I think it goes back to energy, right? This is a high level union, and there's
Mhm.
reason for it, right? It's bringing back high level love, a love without condition. This is a high frequency for the planet. We really want this to succeed on the planet. This is really going to help humanity evolve. But telepathy, communication through music, these psychic kind of abilities, these
Mhm.
are really powerful ways of communication that seem to be, yeah, very frequent ways of communicating. Music plays a really big role, whether that's hearing songs on the radio with very, the words, or I'll have a client with like lots of like songs on her playlist, and she'll just intentionally, pick a random song in the playlist and then find out that same song is on that person's Spotify playlist, those kind of things. Music plays a very big role. I'll hear certain songs for sure that I know are messages. That's very frequent. Yeah,
I
it's
haven't
like
had that
it's
as much. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, it's that when you think of like the twin communicating with the twin, it's that very specific. You can be thousands of miles away. You can be across the globe and be able to have that link of communication. Whether
Yeah.
that's psychic, telepathic, through music. I think it's through journaling, writing. I think there can also be kind of even that what one person can feel, the other person can definitely feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Hmm.
felt that, and I felt and a lot of times dreams have been big,
Hmm.
or just like awakening at certain times at night and feeling communication. And it's just interesting. I haven't, because I've tried to be careful, although like I said, I've flirted more than I probably should have, but it just always has been like we just run into each other, and it's never at the same place that we ran into each other before. It's always a different, place. It's just so interesting to me how it just keeps coming back and back. And like I said, there's nobody else that I run into in that way.
Yeah, that's definitely a theme too.
So yeah,
Yeah, the running into each other and the yeah.
yeah. But I feel at peace about it, and I feel like I finally am at a place where I'm at peace with allowing myself to open up to someone else. And I guess I'm navigating, what does that look like then if I do have a dream about him, and or a thought about him, just being able to realize that I can let that go and it's okay. It was there, but it doesn't need to, I don't need to perseverate on it or worry about it or think about it. It just is. So I don't know if that's a good approach, but
Yeah. Yeah, it can just be kind of like a checking in. Maybe it's just like a hi. You don't have to give it attention if you don't want to, because it can be kind of sticky energy, right? You've shut that door. If that person is not on the healing journey,
that growth journey. Yeah.
right? If they're not meeting you or have not met you at that level.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, that's the thing I realized too, is that even if he ever were to get out of the relationship, because I know there's been a lot of disharmony there for them, that doesn't necessarily mean that we are compatible and in the right space together. Because I have chosen a lot of growth and all that in this lifetime, I recognize that what's more important, what feels more important to me, is finding someone that's on the same path with similar energy, because that, for me, when someone's in similar energy, it feels like the oneness that you experience is more precious, it's more intense, it's more beautiful. And so I feel like that's kind of where I'm at right now, is more like universe, source, this is what I want. Even if he was available and he wasn't here, this is what my soul needs in this lifetime.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So choosing the pleasure, the creativity, yes, the embodiment, the connection to self, and aligning with what does light you up and what does fill up your cup, and magnetizing that into you and allowing that to come to you.
Yeah. It goes back to that butterfly journey, right? Again, where it feels like the level of relationships that I've had in the past have been more like the caterpillar to caterpillar, and the metamorphosis and growth that I've done. Now I see it from different eyes, from the air level versus the ground level, and that's okay. If something changes and it's different down the road, then great, but that's what I'm sensing and feeling now and into my being. And yeah, and I feel like right now I love interacting with you too, because it does remind me so much more about doing things that are creative and the enjoyment. Like yesterday I went out and I just did some art out by my creek, with my trees, and I love that. And I'm not an artist, but I just had so much fun just like playing with it. And I mean, I really feel like I am an artist, but I'm just blossoming.
Yes, we're all creative. We're all born creative. You don't have to be an artist. You can be a heartist.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes,
I'm gonna have to coin that. That's as my friend Molly says.
you can be
I
a
love it.
artist.
Yeah. Hey, I just
Yes.
want to say thank you so much for being you. Like, you're
Aw,
just a joy for other people, and you are encouraging and just have this beautiful open heart that's also got its boundaries, and at the same time showing an example of how we can move into pleasure and into joy. And it's such needed work right now, Molly. And I just want to say thank you so much for being that woman that opens us up to that and helps encourage us in that direction. It's really important right now, and I'm really grateful. So thank you.
thank you, friend. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for being on this podcast with me. And I don't have to do it alone. Thank you for your, yes, co-hosting with me. I love doing this with you and appreciate you so much. And anything else before we wrap up today?
I think just a reminder again that we are each holy architecture.
Holy
And
architecture.
we might be in process, but we're holy architecture, and very unique holy architecture.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. With that, we will say goodbye. So thank you so much, and we'll connect with you again next time.